Ian.
Yes.
Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. The game is coming back. It's exciting news.
It is. So Scott Pilgrim, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the famous comic by Brian Lee O'Malley that kind of permeated pop culture everywhere in the, let's say probably around 2010.
Late aughts, early
early teens. Got a very, very nicely done beat 'em up in 2014. Well, that was I think when it was pulled, and it was it had pixel art style. Anna Monoguchi did the soundtrack. It's a great soundtrack. And it was a well-loved game. It was, like I said, a very well-done beat-em up with a great style. It played a little bit like River City Ransom, which, of course, the comic itself actually referenced, a lot. The comic referenced tons of video games. But it was kind of the game was always kind of the poster child for why digital-only distribution is bad, because it was pulled off the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 stores in, I believe it was the holiday season of 2014. And not only does Scott Pilgrim itself, the comic, have a big fan base, so does the movie, and the fans are rabid for this sort of stuff. But this was one of those weird instances where a game that was actually good and actually linked to a popular property came out, received glowing critical praise, and disappeared shortly after it was released, including the DLC.
Well, let's see. Well, it had a 4-year life. Came out around the same time as the movie in summer of 2010. Let's see, August 10th, PlayStation Network and Xbox Live Arcade August 25th, met with mostly positive reviews. I remember the time I never saw Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I did say, this looks very interesting because it looks very stylized. It has obviously comic book and video game elements out the wazoo. And this was 2010 was still that weird time for, geek-centric things and video game sort of centric things getting into the mainstream, where it wasn't hugely mainstream yet. It was still like on that weird cusp to me, and Scott Pilgrim helped like blow that up. Comic-Con was starting to blow up at 2010. It wasn't at quite the fever pitch it is now. It was starting to rise, you know what I mean? Like Walking Dead was getting really popular, so it was that weird time 10 years ago, which seems like a lifetime ago now, and that's what I remember about it. I was almost surprised about how much press the game got, and especially the movie did at the time.
Yeah, it was right there at the turning point, I think, for geek culture, where that sort of stuff became mainstream. So, like you said, its release and its popularity were positioned perfectly for that. So, Ubisoft did their I don't know, here's what the fuck's coming out soon event.
Is that the name?
I don't care. I don't know what it's called, but that's what the event was for.
Their fandom, the Ubisoft fandom.
Yeah, their fan thing. So they announced their usual games, which I'm just not going to get into. But they did finally announce Scott Pilgrim. So it was this I think has been something that I think people have wanted this ever since they took it off the store. However, in the past year, Brian Lee O'Malley and Ubisoft have had brief exchanges on Twitter, and he has posted things, the author, that kind of led people to believe that maybe there were some talks going on to get this republished. Obviously, it was, with licensing and things like that, it gets to be a very sort of difficult dance. And sure. I used to know more about some of the particulars that made this release so fraught, but I can't remember them anymore. But at the end of the day, it no longer matters. It's getting re-released. So now the question is, it's coming out this holiday season. It's going to have the DLC packs included. That's Knives Chow and what the fuck is his name? Wallace. I can't remember his last name. But they're two DLC characters. Wallace Wells. So it will have everything. I don't think there's any word on pricing yet. I'm gonna guess that it's probably gonna be $19.99. And this, of course, leads to a lot of people wondering, well, are we going to get a physical edition? And I think that's really key here with a game that, like I said, has become kind of the icon of what happens when you release a game digitally only, even if it's well loved and part of a popular franchise or part of a popular property. These things can go away. So I think having a physical release is going to be very important here. I've seen a lot of people asking for limited run to do it, which is funny because limited run would do a great version. They always release, especially they do like nice collector's editions. But this is Ubisoft, and I think people think limited run because they see a game with sprite art, they see like an indie style game, and they think, oh, those are the guys who make sure physical copies of these games come out.
Sure, but this is a big company.
But this is a big company, and honestly, like limited run has really, they're not so limited anymore. But I would want this game to get a wide release,
just a proper release where I can go to Best Buy and get it, or online from Target.
Let me get this anywhere. Hopefully we'll get word on that. And that doesn't mean that, some of these companies like Limited Run couldn't be necessarily tapped for like a special edition or something like that. But Ubisoft's got the power to put this out on physical.
They got the bucks.
Yeah, they
don't need a Limited Run to help them.
Right, exactly.
Limited Run to them is an ant. Like they don't need a smaller company to help them. I mean, it is what it is. They can put out whatever games they want. I just wonder what the thought process was. How did the momentum build for them to decide, oh, we should really put this back out again? Like, we crunched the numbers, and we got to give money to maybe. I'm guessing obviously there's rights tied up with the movie production company and maybe with the comic book company. Like maybe that's why it was complicated. But they ran numbers and said, okay, this is the time. Maybe with the minor resurgence of beat 'em ups happening right now the past few years, maybe that's what helped it a little bit.
Yeah, like we were talking about stuff the other day, and I noticed that beat 'em ups are definitely kind of having a quality year between releases like River City Girls, which was great, Streets of Rage 4, which at this point is still my game of the year. I mean, I haven't fallen in love with the game that I did not think I was going to like as much as Streets of Rage 4. That game consumed me for multiple weeks, and I've been getting the itch to go back to it. I've heard very mixed things on the Battletoads game, but that got released, and now we're getting the re-release of this. You also had Jay and Silent Bob's Mall Brawl.
Yeah, well, the NES one, but the modern one isn't even out yet. From Interrobang, that's still on the way.
Okay, so yeah,
there's properties attached to these that are of importance, which helps. But overall, it seems like there is a market that needs to be fed for some beat 'em ups that wasn't being fed before in the past.
I think especially with some of the very well made ones, like the first two I mentioned, I think people are re-experiencing what makes beat 'em ups fun, learning how the enemies and all the AI patterns tick and stuff like that. And I think it's a good time to be a fan of beat 'em ups.
Because in the early 2010s, we'll just say, I don't remember there being a huge demand for it, and there was like some re-releases. We had like the X-Men arcade game was re-released on was Xbox Live.
Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention also the Capcom beat 'em up collection came out this year.
That was last year. Was it? Question. Oh yeah, that was at least a year ago.
Oh yeah, no, it was. You're right. My sense of time.
Yeah, I was gonna say the beat 'em up bundle. When did that come out? Was that 2018 or 19? That was 18, buddy. That was 2 years ago. Almost to the day.
COVID time. But also I think part of it, to go back to your question about what was the lead up, that's part of it. But ever since this game got taken down, people have been asking for it, harassing Ubisoft and Brian Lee O'Malley. He made a tweet that I thought was fairly funny when it was announced. Huge thank you to the fans who never shut up about the Scott Pilgrim game. Not once, ever, even for 1 second to let me sleep. This game belongs to you. Now please get out of my house. I don't condone pestering people, but it's one of those things where I do think a very vocal fan base never letting up on it is part of what helped it get re-released.
Yeah, I'm surprised it says it was delisted or reportedly due to an expired license. I mean, I can't picture a game license only being 4 years for a property like that. I guess they thought, well, that's all we need for this, or it's not gonna make enough money.
No, they're short for Marvel as well. Like when Marvel vs. Capcom 2 got put up on the 360, I think it was only a year, maybe 2 at max, before they pulled that down. That happened a lot on Xbox Live Arcade. These licenses are very short-sighted in a lot of, and it's here and now. Get the game out.
I don't understand that. Why wouldn't you have it a little more open-ended in case it's a sleeper hit? I just don't understand that. And you got to renegotiate, have a new deal come. I don't get it. Just had the deal, unless they thought they were going to make different games and so it has to go somewhere else. I don't understand it. 4 years, actually, it sounds like, it's 11, 12, 13, 4 years for this game that was gone.
So this is coming out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, Stadia, PC, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some version of it thrown up on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and
of course,
whatever comes next. Like I said, I'm very excited to be able to play this again. I did have it on my PS3. I still do, actually, I think, but I was not able to get the DLC packs in time. So yeah, it'll be fun to play through this with Vonnie again. I just, holding out hope for that announcement of a physical release. I would be very surprised if there isn't a physical release, if there isn't some sort of insane collector's edition. I think they'd be totally missing the mark if they didn't do that. So I think it's just a matter of time before we hear about it.
I wonder, I'm trying to think, was there any other game that was close to this that got delisted or pulled that people were mad about?
Not this level, no. But the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was a big one. Mortal Kombat, one of the Mortal Kombats was another one.
But you can still get that physically, though.
Well, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the 360 you cannot get physically. The Mortal Kombat re-release, it was like one of the classic collections you could not get physically. These are a lot of digital-only games. At least the 360
Why didn't they come out with a
versions.
physical version on the 360?
Because it's Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and that was a Dreamcast game.
So they said we'll just put it up for the hell of it.
Yeah, they're just putting it up digitally. There's lots and lots of games that had digital-only releases.
Let's see, Marvel Capcom 2, 360.
So,
all right. Well, I'm looking forward to playing it. See what the hype is about.
it's good. It's a fun brawler.